kicking back on this summer breeze. Welcome to Double K's Classroom. Class is officially in session. Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Double KK Double right here on the 4H Presents Radio Network, and I am bringing to you my thoughts. Well, not just my thoughts, but some thoughts on the NFL draft for this season. I am here with a man that has not been seen or heard on Four Aces in well over a year, and he's been missed. My one and only brother from another mother from West Coast Bias, Mr. Suave. What's up, brother?
What's up, man? Just sad that O'Malley's not here for me to say third segment.
You know, we are doing an episode tomorrow. She still worries about you jumping in and taking her segment. All right. So, as y'all know, the NFL draft took place. Well, as we're recording this, the NFL draft just wrapped up. But as this will be airing, it'll be about a week ago. The landscape of the NFL kind of changed. You had a lot of big things that happened. So really what we're going to focus in on is those top 10 picks, because those are the guys. Those are the guys that we should expect to make some impact in the league within the next 3 to 4 years. Not to say if you don't get drafted in that first 10, you can't make an impact. With hell, the potential GOAT, the maybe GOAT in Tom Brady was taken in almost in the, I believe, 7th round, pick 199 or something like that.
Six.
Yeah, 6. So, it's not that you can't get great talent later, Hall of Fame talent later, but you would like to think that these guys, they're the best of the best coming out of college right now, so that they're going to make some impact. So let's first take a look at the list as it stands. As said, the draft just finished wrapping up today. So we opened up the draft with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who possibly were one of the most pathetic NFL football franchises last year, sans the year the Browns went 0-16. They ended up getting themselves a potential franchise quarterback, though. Gardner Minshew, love you to death. He might even start a couple of games, but this is going to be Trevor Lawrence's team by the end of next season. By the time Game 17 is played, Trevor Lawrence will be starting for the Jags. At least I believe. I don't think Urban Meyer takes him number one if he's not planning on making this kid into a star. So, Suave, your thoughts on Lawrence, former Heisman runner-up, I believe, and then also national champion, going number one in this year's draft.
Well, to be honest, I mean, I like Trevor Lawrence. I mean, he's done a lot for Clemson, helped get them a national title, helped beat Bama, came in as a true freshman and took the job. They say he's pretty pro-ready. Urban Meyer comes in, wants to make a splash. I think he starts day one. He's just going to solidify that spot after the preseason. And I think, they're going to be off and running with him. I do feel sad for Gardner Minshew, but, he just wasn't consistent enough. And then when they lucked in, because honestly, I feel if they hadn't beat out the Jets for this number one spot, they might not have taken a quarterback. I think they might have ran with Minshew another year and prayed to, either get the number one next year or to, solidify the team around Minshew and hope that he shows progression. But when you have an opportunity to get, arguably the best quarterback to be drafted since Andrew Luck, I mean, it was too enticing for them to pass up. And it really, he kind of just literally fell in their lap. Honestly, he probably should have been a New York Jet. the Morebound franchise. You know, I know we're going to be talking about them next. But the Jags, I mean, this is the guy. I mean, you know, when you look at number one overall picks of quarterbacks, you know, you think Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning. You know, the guys at number one tend to be, you know, better than decent nowadays versus the past. Yeah. So, you know, while I'm not expecting him to come in and instantly make them a playoff team, they should be competitive enough to maybe be in the playoff picture until late in the season, if not just make the playoffs. But going forward, I mean, we all saw what Andrew Luck did to the Colts. We saw what Peyton Manning did to the Colts. We saw what Eli did with the Giants. So, I mean, you put a little bit of talent around a player like, you know, Lawrence, and they should be a highly competitive team moving forward. I really like Urban Meyer. It was the time for him to get back into the pros and kind of show his thing. I just hope this time, you know, his health allows him to actually see it through this time.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Now, I'm going to say this because I've been cracking this joke for weeks. I love Trevor Lawrence, loved watching him play. You know, he was the predecessor to Deshaun Watson at that Clemson program. But this boy is Ronnie Sunshine Bass reincarnated. For those of you who don't know who he is, go watch Remember the Titans and then watch Trevor Lawrence. From the way he plays the game to that damn hairdo, everything about him screams Ronnie Sunshine Bass, and I see success in that. You know, I think that this kid is going to be surrounded by talent. I think that Urban Meyer is going to draw up plays that really utilize his strengths. And to be honest with you, and it's outside of like, not even at Utah, because like the best quarterback he had at Utah was Alex Smith. Then I think about Urban Meyer at Florida. The best quarterback he had there was Tim Tebow. But I would consider Lawrence a little bit better of a quarterback than Tim Tebow. Not because he's just a better thrower of the football. Like Tim Tebow had a lot of those other intangibles. I give him credit where credit's due. But Lawrence just is a better thrower of the football. A little bit more accurate, a little bit more power. I see him as some.
What's funny is that Tebow might end up being a tight end.
Yeah, I heard about that. He went and did a tryout. Now I could definitely say to myself this. If Urban Meyer is not the coach for the Jaguars, that never happens. I think the only reason why Tebow is willing to change positions and wants to get on that team is because it's Urban Meyer that's coaching it.
Exactly. So, but also when you look at it, I mean, Lawrence is the man. He's going to be the quarterback. Tebow has no shot at even playing quarterback, but there are some trickeration plays they could throw with Tebow in there as the tight end, some type of motion offenses where, you know, he ends up behind center or at the halfback position, and then he's able to throw the ball kind of how LaDainian Tomlinson used to for the Chargers. So, I mean, he could definitely add a wrinkle that teams can't really account for from his position if he makes the team.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to pause. We're going to stop that one there and move on to this juicy number 2 pick, because all 3 of the first top picks were juicy. They had storylines galore around them. The Jets jettisoned Adam Gase a year too late, but finally jettisoned Adam Gase, jettisoned the GM, brought in a new GM, brought in Robert Saleh, former 49ers defensive coordinator. He brought in Mike LaFleur. Was it Mike LaFleur? Yeah, as his old coordinator. And unfortunately for Sam Darnold, I feel like Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen have kind of just gotten like the most seriously jacked up rubs to the start of their career. Because in Arizona, Josh Rosen wasn't a bad quarterback, but Kyler Murray was the quarterback the next year, and they had the number 1 pick. And so they jettison Rosen and they get Kyler Murray, and Arizona is a better team for it. And you kind of see a similar situation here with Darnold and Zach Wilson. Darnold has potential. Darnold's not a bad quarterback, but evidently LaFleur and Saleh didn't feel that he fit their system, so they jettisoned him to Carolina, and Zach Wilson's their man. Now, Zach Wilson was somebody, I will tell you this much. I will state this much before I let you give your opinions this while. Zach Wilson was somebody I hope that if he wasn't taken at number 2, if the Niners would take him at 3, because I had heard Shanahan was enamored with him last year. So
Yeah, I mean, the kid from BYU kind of shot up the charts there, really based off of last season. He was kind of the poster child of being like a shooting star come draft stock time. I really feel bad for Darnold. He was in a tough situation that they tried to make work, and it's obvious that the new leadership of the Jets determined that he just had taken too much of a beating. And, there were things about him that they just felt that they didn't want to work through and fix. So they picked their next guy. They picked their guy after losing out on the Lawrence sweepstakes. So, I mean, this one's a tough one because it was so quarterback heavy. I think there's only the third time ever that 3 quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3. And then you had another quarterback taken a little bit later. 2 more quarterbacks taken later in the first round alone, so 5 first-round quarterbacks. Zach Wilson's in an interesting spot. If they can put enough weapons around him and actually give him some protection, which what they could not give to Sam Darnold, and they still haven't necessarily fixed. I got to look at the rest of their draft, but I know they didn't draft 5 offensive linemen, so they still have work to do on that. And then they let their best defender go in was it the kid Adams, I believe, the safety, sent him to Seattle. He got disgruntled when the team looked like it really wasn't going anywhere. So, I mean, I'm hoping they don't put Wilson out, like they did Darnold. They let him sit for a minute, let somebody else get their head beat in while they finish putting the pieces around him, and he's able to learn the offense. And hopefully next year he's able to step in and lead that team. I got a soft spot for the Jets. They've been, a moribund franchise for decades now. I mean, they've had swatches of being good. The Rex Ryan years, they had 2 or 3 seasons where they're actually a really good team. But since then and before then, you might have to go all the way back to Namath when they were actually worth anything. I mean, there's been a couple of bright spots here and there, but I mean, I like the Zach Wilson kid. It's just going to be tough with the amount of talent. They're going to have to do a lot of work quickly over the next 2 seasons for him to have success. Otherwise, they're going to end up with Sam Darnold 2.0.
Amen to that. Amen to that. And you talk about giving a quarterback an opportunity to learn, and I think that's exactly what's going to be going on with our next pick, and that is everybody was surprised, but I had said, remember early on in one of our conversations, that Lance was the guy that I kind of liked most out of it. Like he's mobile, he's accurate, and he's young. So it gives him an opportunity to sit on the bench for a couple of years and learn the offense. People forget when they push to rush Trey Lance into the starting lineup, which he was the 3rd pick overall in the draft. When they rushed to put Trey Lance in that starting lineup, that the kid's only 20, and Kyle Shanahan's offense isn't exactly simple. It's a complicated offense. So the kid, giving the kid a year or 2 to learn, and using somebody else who is, as long as he can stay healthy, is a proven winner within Shanahan's offense. You can't opt for a better situation. Your thoughts?
I'm going to be honest. I see Alex Smith, Kaepernick all over again, only this time I believe that Trey Lance will take the job and be able to hold on to it for the foreseeable future. I believe that the quarterback, Garoppolo, I think that he's really the epitome of Alex Smith. He'll manage a game out for you, but he's not necessarily going to be able to win that game for you, win the big one, get over that hump. He did get this team to the Super Bowl, but the reason they're drafting the quarterback now is because Garoppolo didn't get it done. I mean, I'll be honest. Had they won that Super Bowl, they're probably not drafting the quarterback right now. Even with the bad season that they had with the myriad of injuries that allowed them to get to the number 3 pick, I think they go in a totally different direction, and Garoppolo's the man for the next half decade, if not longer, especially with the way quarterbacks been able to play a lot later into their careers, into their 30s, versus the previous decades. So I think Trey Lance is going to come in. He will probably sit on the bench this season, but I would be incredibly surprised if Garoppolo makes it through next offseason. I would assume, depending on how preseason goes, there could be a chance maybe they would, even if they started Lance, they would hold on to Garoppolo as insurance on this season. But to be honest, I think that Lance will be the starter going into the next season, not this coming season, but the season after. And then Garoppolo most likely gets dealt to a team that, their quarterback falls out of favor and they just need a game manager. Essentially, he's going to run into the same Alex Smith issue. He's going to come in and be given the keys, knowing that there's going to be a guy drafted that's going to take over for him. So he's literally in the same shoes that Alex Smith got, only without he has had a spat of injuries, but I think, he'll get this one last chance to get over for the Niners, but this is it. After this season, he's gone.
I think it all depends on Trey Lance's development. Like I said, we got to remember the kid is 20. As good as the kid is 20 years old. So we're gonna have to remember that. And Shanahan wants to bring him along slowly. Now, like I agree with your assessment that most likely by the beginning of the 2022 season, Trey Lance will be the starter for the Niners. And Jimmy will most likely be moved on to someplace because where of his choosing. A lot of people forget he has a no trade clause, so the man will be able to choose where he wants to go and where he doesn't want to go. So it'll be the team that's on his list that offers the Niners the best offer that'll end up getting him. But I can definitely see Trey Lance being the guy of the future. The guy that leads the Niners to their next Super Bowl appearance if it doesn't happen next year and it's not Jimmy Garoppolo. This is a young team, and Lance has time to grow. Here's the deal. You were talking about if they won that Super Bowl. I'm going to say this. I think if Nick Mullins turns out to be a better quarterback than what he was, not to say he was bad, because he did great in spot duty, but if he had turned out to be a better quarterback and we had a little bit more success with him, I think the Niners never move up.
Absolutely.
They never move up to 3.
Absolutely.
They stay pat at 12 and maybe they take a Caleb Farley or Patrick Surtain or something like that, and they go defense with this draft. But I think that Nick Mullins kind of flaming out forced them to be like, look at it like this. Nick Mullins doing what he did forced them to be in a position where now their quarterback room is filled with Jimmy, young Trey, the future, Josh Rosen, Jim Johnson, and then there was one other one. There's 5 quarterbacks in that quarterback room. Now, most likely, they'll only carry 2 or 3 into the season. So most likely it's going to be Jimmy and Trey. But they brought in 5 guys for a reason. You know what I'm saying? They want to find somebody to compete with because, unfortunately, Jimmy's not reliable. The best ability is availability. Jimmy's not reliable in that sense. So because of that, Jimmy can end up somewhere like, I don't know. I can't even think of where, because almost everywhere where I think he could have went, they picked up a quarterback that they wanted.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how this next season plays out. And there's going to be a couple teams that end up with their Sam Darnold. Yeah. A guy that just lose confidence in, coaching staff gets fired. They come in and, especially if they have a decent young defense, they'll kind of look back on how he played with a good young defense for the Niners and figure that he can be their stopgap to where they're not forced to, necessarily draft a quarterback right off the bat. He can be that stopgap guy.
Yeah, and he's very good with that. Now let's move on to Atlanta, who shocked the world. Who definitely didn't surprise anybody because this is who a lot of mock drafts had him going to. But a lot of people didn't think that it was going to end up going that way. They thought maybe they were going to go with another quarterback and we were going to get the first 4 as quarterbacks, which has never happened. But instead, Atlanta goes with Kyle Pitts, tight end from Florida. Beast of a boy. He can block, he can catch, he can play the slot, he can run outside. This is the guy that I was telling you about that I made the comment the other day. I don't think he goes this high if George Kittle is not as successful as George Kittle is. I think that because if you look at the type of tight end that he is, he's exactly the same type of tight end that George Kittle is. And where did the Niners get Kittle? Like the 4th, 5th round. So nobody wants to let a guy that could be that good slip that far again. It's that immediate overreaction to somebody snabbing like a Tom Brady late or snabbing like a George Kittle late. You know, it's a reaction where somebody goes, "Oh, no, I'm not passing up my chance to get this mother," and they end up taking him. I think it was a little bit of a reach. What are your thoughts, Bob?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of talk saying that he was, outside of the quarterbacks, the best player in his draft. You know, a game-breaking physical presence out of the tight end spot. Essentially just a hefty receiver, but can also has the ability to get down and block. So, I mean, if I were to compare him to another tight end, I probably would go with a Tony Gonzalez versus the Kittle, just considering that, you know, Gonzalez was a first-round pick as a tight end. So, I mean, Pitts isn't necessarily going to be a diamond in the rough because he got drafted number 4 overall.
Yeah.
I like that, you know, it depends on if Atlanta deals Julio Jones. There was a lot of chatter that he was going to get moved. But if they hold on to Julio Jones, I know they've got, I believe, the kid Calvin Ridley, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
That might be the guy.
Yeah.
I know they've got a good number 2 receiver. So that's going to take a lot of heat off of the tight end spot. And if he can come in and give them what they were getting from Gonzalez, then it's an immediate upgrade for the Atlanta Falcons. They won't be running necessarily the same Shanahan offense from when they were all seeing all that success, but they should still be successful. I think he'll have an opportunity to shine. He's definitely come in. He started day 1. You know, that's why they felt comfortable with how they were letting Hooper go, because Hooper was supposed to be the next guy for Atlanta, and now he's in Cleveland. So I think they feel real good about Pitts. And like I say, a lot of people think he was the best player in this draft that wasn't a quarterback.
For sure. All right, so the last pick that we're going to do for the first half of the show right quick, we got something that happened twice, and we'll go over it because it was back-to-back picks. We'll go over the other one at the top of the next half. Jamar Chase from LSU goes, despite like widely not being considered the best wide receiver in this draft, being that the wide receiver Devontae Smith, from Alabama won the Heisman. And he ended up going 5 picks later.
Yeah,
I think a lot of this had to do with the Bengals wanting to reunite Chase with his homeboy Joe Burrow, who they took with the number 1 pick last year in the draft. Chase and Burrow had a lot of success in LSU, and maybe Zach Taylor's hoping that they'll have similar success in Cincinnati. So your thoughts on Cincinnati pairing up their number 1 pick quarterback last year with one of his number 1 targets from his college days in Jamar Chase?
I'm going to be honest. It happened 4 times in this first round, and it's really a rarity in the NFL for it to go down like this. But I'm going to be just pertaining to this pick and the next couple that were watching. Jamar Chase was in the conversation of being the best wideout in this draft, depending on how you wanted to use him. And I think that pairing Burrow with one of his best friends from college at that spot, considering he was worthy of that spot, that's a no-brainer. You want to make your guy happy. I mean, let's be honest. The Packers could have taken a page out of the notebook of what the Bengals just did. You know, they know Burrow's the man. He's gonna be a very good to maybe elite quarterback going forward. He still has some work to do. I'm not saying he's there yet, but he's definitely showed flashes that he's going to be a good quarterback. You get him his favorite target from college, which, let's be honest, that's just a great story in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think he's going to go there, and it's going to be like they didn't miss any time together. They still have some other holes to fill. You know, they've got to get Burrow better protection. They've got some good players on defense, so it's really about getting that offensive line, you know, under wraps. And once they're able to do that, I think this is a very good pairing, and it's definitely a smart pairing. I don't see it as a reach, because really the top three wideouts were, kind of a coin toss.
Yeah, we're within that inch of each other.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll wrap this up there at number 5. We'll come back and hit up 6 through 10. Thank you guys for listening in or checking us out on YouTube here. Let's see. Checking us out on YouTube. You're listening to Double K's Classroom. I am here with the one and only Suave from West Coast Bias, and we're talking the NFL draft. We'll be back after this podcast promo break, or if you're watching on YouTube after the commercial break, and we'll talk more football. Peace. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Double KK Double coming back here, and I'm back with the one and only Suave. What's up, Suave?
What up, man?
All right, man. So let's get the rest of this draft done. We here talking NFL draft. We talk picks 1 through 5. Mr. Trevor Lawrence and the 49ers taking their franchise quarterback, along with Kyle Pitts going to Atlanta, and Jamar Chase was the last pick we talked. So let's get in to the next pairing of wide receiver, former college teammates in wide receiver and quarterback, when they took Jalen Waddle. This was the guy that played opposite of the Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith, in Alabama, and was one of like 6 Alabama players taken in the first round. It was like, holy shit, they matched the 2004 Miami Dolphins. And I meant to tell you, remember how we were talking? Right, or just a quick side note. Remember how we were talking about Young Rock, and I was talking about his college days at Miami, and you were like, he didn't play with Ray Lewis. He did. His junior year, he played with Ray Lewis, as I believe as his senior year, he played with Ray Lewis as an incoming freshman.
Oh, so he was part of the super team.
Yeah. So I just found it out. Like, basically, I was watching Young Rock on NBC, and it got to this episode, and he walks into the locker room, and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" He's like, "What's up?" He's like, "Who you?" He's like, "I'm Ray Lewis." And I was like, he did play with Ray Lewis. All right. Yeah. All right. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. But Jalen Waddle, what many consider to be the second best receiver on Alabama last year compared to the Heisman Trophy winner, ends up going to pair back up with Tua Tagovailoa out there in Miami, giving him a solid target. Do they still have no Landry's in Cleveland now?
Yeah.
Who did they have last year that was hot, wide receiver wise? There was somebody that fantasy wise was hot last year. I can't remember his name though.
They got a young wide receiver core. They had one guy kind of stand out last year, but let's be honest, he's about to be their number 2 receiver.
Yeah, behind Waddle. Waddle's just a beast. But once again, here we have that another team connecting their young up and coming quarterback with his old target from college. Like, is this going to become a trend? Are we going to start seeing this more? Is one of Trey Lance's wide receivers going to get drafted by the Niners next year? Like, what are we looking at here?
I think it shows that teams want their quarterbacks who are faces of the franchise to be as successful as possible. And if they've got to bring somebody in who they have an instant connection with on the field, regardless of whatever playbooks they run, that I believe is going to be the future. There are still going to be the standouts who just, aren't able to be drafted by the team that had their guy or whatnot. But this year, all the stars aligned and through the entire first round, to be quite frank about it. I believe it was about 5 people that ended up playing with their old ex-quarterbacks. So I do see a future in this. I don't think it'll happen as much as it did this year, just the stars aligned. But I think it will be something in the future that teams definitely look to try and do to, 1, get the most out of their quarterback, and 2, when you draft guys that play together in college, typically what you're essentially saying is we want you here long term.
Yep.
We're trying to make you as successful and as comfortable as quickly as possible to help acclimate you to the game. So, I think that this is something we should look out for more in the future. It won't happen as much. This was kind of an anomaly with how many or how often it happened in just the first round. But I think that is definitely something that's going to be happening in the future. And I believe that Waddle is a good pick for them. Some might have said they should have took Devonta, but let's be honest, there were some questions about his frame. I think it's slightly unfounded, seeming how he played at Alabama. They played against the best, and he literally just won a Heisman Trophy, So I think that, it was kind of a either or type situation, and they felt like the build and frame and what Waddle could do on the field versus Devontae was what pushed them to select Waddle over Smith.
Amen. All right, now the next pick we had at 7, the Lions, who this offseason was a part of one of the biggest trades out there when they moved Matthew Stafford, and I believe a few draft picks, to LA for Jared Goff. So what do? They go out and they get themselves a potential franchise left tackle, one of the best offensive linemen in the draft, and Penei Sewell out of Oregon to protect his blind side. So first O-lineman off the board, going to a place where they have a young quarterback, a decent defense, and Matt Patricia is coaching for his life. What are your thoughts on the Lions taking Sewell with that 7th pick?
And no-brainer. He at number 7, you get the best offensive lineman in the draft. They're literally calling him a generational talent. So,
like
at
Trent Williams.
At 7 to get the best offensive lineman in the draft. They say there was a coin flip between him and another lineman taken later in the first round. But honestly, I think they got the guy that they want. He can definitely anchor that offensive line, and you're going to have to get Goff some protection. And this was the step in the right direction. Every grade out I've seen is an A+. I don't see anybody. I think I might have seen somebody give the Lions just a straight A, maybe because they don't do A+. But let's be honest, this is an A+ move. The guy fell into your lap because it was so quarterback heavy in the first handful of picks. So I think this was a good pick for Detroit. And I got nothing against Goff. He, a Cal guy. I'm all about Cal Bears. and hopefully he can, recapture what made him such a high pick in his draft.
Yep. Amen. Now the first, was the first tackle off the board. Next, at the number 8 pick, we had Carolina Panthers take the first cornerback off the board in J.C. Horn. Big, lengthy corner, shut down, easily considered one of the top cornerbacks in the draft. Your thoughts on Carolina securing their defense? The Panthers securing their defense with an almost generational corner. I can't say what was his name. Josh. You remember him? He played for Carolina, and then he went over to Washington. He was like trying to put himself in the same bracket with like Richard Sherman and all them. It was Josh something. But
was good. I know he talking about, but his name is escaping me right now.
Yeah, I think he could end up being something like that, except that maybe this guy stays. Horn was one of the ones that I was looking at for the Niners at 12 in the draft, but evidently he wasn't going to be there. But yeah, like I think Carolina improved themselves with this one.
I'm going to be honest. They've got their draft specialists. They talked to this kid. I didn't like this pick.
Really?
I like Horn's ability. I like what I've seen on tape. I like the highlight reel that he's got out there. But I thought they should have taken Surtain. I think it was a coin flip. And I think that, the corner for Alabama versus the corner from South Carolina, I mean, the level of competition they both faced, I mean, to be quite frank about it, not only did Surtain play for Bama, but in practice he faced off against Smith and Waddle, the two of the top wide receivers in this draft class. So I think that they should have gone Surtain, but they went Horn, and I'm not in their draft room. I have no inner knowledge. Hell, I've never even talked to the dude. So obvious that they saw something that they liked. He was able to convince them to make him that pick. So while I don't like it, my opinion really doesn't matter because they went and turned around and got the guy that they wanted, and they wanted opportunity to, just like the Lions, get the guy that they wanted, and they did. So I mean, I might not like it, but I can't disagree with it.
For sure. Then you must have really liked what the Denver Broncos did. Well, as a borderline Raiders fan, I don't know, that might have hurt watching him come to the AFC West. But Patrick Surtain, the man we were just speaking of, did land himself in Denver. And supposedly he was who Denver was eyeing the whole time, according to Denver's general manager. That's who they wanted. But you think about adding that kid to a defense that's still got Von Miller, that's still got that kid Chubb at linebacker. He helps make Denver dangerous, extremely dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, they get their shutdown corner. They kind of had one with Aqib Talib, and now they get to essentially replace him with a Surtain. So, I mean, a Surtain is up to the task. He's instantly their number one corner. I mean, I know they do have that veteran who's been an all-pro corner. His name is escaping me right now. But I think he can come in and be the number 2, eventually the number 1. They definitely, went defense with their first pick, so they're hoping that the defense can keep teams down and their young quarterback can help, elevate his game because they just got him a weapon last year in Jerry Jeudy. So, I mean, if the offense can turn itself around and become more consistent, not just turn themselves around, but actually just gain consistency, if they can put up, 21, 24 points by adding Surtain to that defense, now their thinking is that, a team's not going to score 21 on them very often. So if they can get to 21 or 24 points, they've got a good chance to win the game. And to be quite honest, I can't argue with that. I mean, you don't want to waste Von Miller's last handful of seasons for however long he chooses to play. You do have Chubb to kind of take over after Miller's gone, but for right now, you have one of the best linebackers in the game in Von. So you don't want to waste him. You want to get good quickly. They made the help to offense last year with Jeudy. This year they helped the defense. So I think this is a real good pick. And plus, if I'm not mistaken, Judy and Surtain know each other and are buddies. So again, you're kind of connecting those friends that have played in college together on different sides of the ball, no doubt. But
Will only make it iron sharpens iron.
Exactly.
But no, a few things that you left off the list when it came to Denver was that they did just recently trade for Teddy Bridgewater, and they're supposedly in the hunt as one of the 3 teams that Aaron Rodgers is willing to go to. I doubt it's going to happen, but hey, you can always hope, right? But no, I think Surtain was the right pick for this reason and this reason only. You play in a division that consists of receivers like Tyreek Hill, Henry Ruggs, and fucking I'm trying to think of the other team in the AFC West. It's the Raiders, the Chiefs, the Broncos, and the Chargers. Keenan Allen.
Yep.
Yeah, and Mike Williams. So you need defense and you need corners big time in that particular division. But let's move on to our last pick that we'll talk about today before we get to the big subject of the day that kind of took over the draft, and that was the number 10 pick. This pick was interesting for me primarily because this pick originally belonged to Dallas. Dallas traded back to 12 with their division rival Eagles to allow them to get ahead of the Giants so that they could get Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver Devontae Smith. I've never seen that, where a division rival helps out another division rival to go get one of the best receivers in the draft. So your thoughts on that, sir?
I think it boils down to this. They really wanted Surtain or Horn. It was one of the two. A lot of talk said they wanted Surtain, and the Broncos were going to go a different direction. They didn't. They took it went corner at 8 and 9, which at 10, they felt that they could get the next guy on their list a couple picks later, which precipitated the trade. They ended up adding a couple picks and still getting their number 2 choice. I feel that if Surtain were still available at 9, or at 10, they would have stayed there. But this team doesn't really necessarily need a receiver, so they, the Eagles paid the price, and Dallas was willing to do it because they have a lot of holes to fill themselves. So I think this was a good move for the Eagles and the Cowboys. I like Smith. Honestly, I think, it's rare for a wide receiver to win the Heisman Trophy. I think that, it's much ado about nothing about his frame, because you've seen what he can do on the field, and you really have a game-breaking talent. I mean, Smith could end up being the best wide receiver in this class, and it's really going to be a toss-up between the 3. He's definitely going to get looks early. He's going to get looks often. He's going to instantly be integrated into the offense in all different types of ways. I hope that his slight frame allows him to have a long career. I can't say I'm not the littlest bit worried about it, but for him to make it through college, to make it through playing for an elite program, consistently fighting for national championships, I like this pick for the Eagles. It really reminds me of Deshaun Jackson when they got him, a game-breaking talent. I'm not sure he'll necessarily be a Deshaun Jackson off the bat, but we'll definitely see. They needed some weapons, and this is a good weapon.
Now, this is another pairing, because a lot of people don't realize this, but Jalen Hurts, before he became a star at Oklahoma, played for Alabama. So this is another guy that's being paired with somebody that he's played with before, maybe not on the field of battle, but they were teammates and on the same Alabama team. So again, like you said, pairing up those young quarterbacks with those young stud receivers that they can grow with together, looking for that next Jerry Rice and Joe Montana, to lead your team to prosperity. So, okay. All that draft talk to the side. Let's talk about the story that took over the draft before we close this out right quick. And that is the supposed story that the 3-time current reigning MVP of the NFL, Aaron Rodgers, no longer wishes to play in Green Bay. So, sir, your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers finally wanting out?
I'm going to be honest. So my feelings are twofold. First off, I think that Green Bay honestly dropped the ball. This is the they saw the writing on the wall. You know, they did the same thing to Brett Favre.
Mhm.
You know, you draft the heir apparent in the first round instead of helping your MVP caliber quarterback play ball and compete for titles. Favre got upset, threatened to retire, wanted to go to Minnesota. They shipped him off to New York. He finally finds his way back to Minnesota. Everything I'm hearing says that Aaron Rodgers will threaten to retire if not traded. I think it's a done deal, to be quite honest. He's going to go somewhere. I'm not sure where. He's either going to get traded and they're not going to get the full return for him because he's willing to threaten to retire, or Aaron Rodgers, I mean, let's be honest, he's probably made a couple $100 million. All he wants to do is compete for titles at this point in his career. He doesn't want to risk long-term health for a team that he feels disrespects him. Now, I'll second that by saying the team does have to look out for its best interest in the future. But when you have a talent like they have in Rodgers, especially coming off an MVP season, you have an opportunity to last year they didn't have to take a quarterback. You know, they could have waited. They could have drafted somebody late, somebody to kind of groom. But you spent a first-round pick on a quarterback. Exactly what you did to Favre with Rodgers, and now you do it again. I tell you what, Love better be ready. You know, Rodgers got to sit for a lot longer, but and behind Brett and learn while Brett kind of festered and stewed about it. But, you know, Love better be able to come in now because that's what you risked by not helping the team either on offense or defense. You didn't even have to give Rodgers a weapon. You could have just helped out the defense, which has really been their Achilles heel since they got that Super Bowl.
Which, by the way, that's what they did with this year's first-round draft pick, with their late pick, is they got a cornerback.
Yeah. Also, I mean, it might be 1 year too late. And Rodgers, you know, he's all in it to win it right now. He's probably only going to figure to play for the rest of this contract, maybe a season after, depending on health and injuries. But I'd be very surprised if he stays a Green Bay Packer going into this season. This is the soap opera of the entire NFL right now.
Yeah, it is. Now here, I'm going to tell you this. Here's the trade that will never happen that I would love to see happen. Aaron Rodgers and a 7th-round pick next year for Jimmy Garoppolo and a 2nd-round pick next year. We move Jimmy. You get Aaron for his last couple of years. Trey Lance can sit behind a god and learn for a couple of years, and everybody wins. Everybody wins.
I think you're selling that short. I would say Aaron Rodgers is going to cost the Niners probably not any players, but definitely 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 2/3 out of the next 2 drafts, maybe even 3. But if I were the Niners, I would do that trade. Yeah. I would bring Rodgers and let him play the next 2 or 3 seasons and groom Lance. I mean, at least this time he knows what he's going into and that he will be at least forced in the quarterback's room to coach up the next guy. Yeah. But they'd be willing to sit that guy behind him and let them, I mean, there's only a couple teams, like 3 teams he's willing to play for, and the Niners, I would cough up the draft capital. I wouldn't give up players. You know, everybody's like, oh, they got to add in Bosa. No. You already gave up Buckner, and I think Buckner was really the linchpin of the whole thing, and you can't afford to give up, one of the better or now the best player on your defensive line. So I would give up 2 or 3 first-round picks with Aaron Rodgers because you've seen him do more with less. Yeah. So you don't necessarily need those picks if you have Aaron Rodgers, and they're going to be late-round picks anyway. If you got Aaron Rodgers, you're instantly a Super Bowl contender. You're instantly in the top 20 of draft picks, if not the higher, back end of the 20s. So I really would like the Niners to make that move. You bring the hometown kid back. It's the good luck story of the kid that you should have drafted when you let him slip through your fingers, Alex Smith. So, I mean, I really like that move. but it just depends. You don't want to give up any of your young talent. You need to be willing to give up draft capital. Somebody's going to do it. I'm just not sure if they're going to get the haul that they want. But all you got to do is look no further than what happened in Detroit. I mean, I believe they got a couple of good picks to go to the Rams, a couple of firsts and maybe a couple thirds. And Rodgers, Stafford's elite. Yeah. Rodgers is the Hall of Famer. Yeah. And there is a distinct difference. So, I mean, Rodgers is worth minimum 3 first-rounders. Yeah. And if I was the Niners, I'd cough those bad boys up today. But,
unfortunately, they don't have it. They gave up 2 of their first-rounders to move up to number 3. They gave up the next 2 years. They just don't have the draft capital to do it. Like I said, it's a dream one. That's why I say throw them Jimmy Garoppolo so at least they get another guy that could start if Jordan Love falls off, but whatever. At this point in time, I'm happy with what we got. I hope they do well. But let's go ahead and wrap this up for the people. Any last words for him, Suave?
I miss you, O'Malley. I would have loved to take in your segment.
All right. Well, one of these days we're gonna have to get a recording, maybe do it on a Saturday or something, but we're gonna have to get you on back onto an episode of West Coast Bias. Thanks for showing up with me here today, brother. And we will talk to you soon. Y'all out there in La La Land and TV land and in music land, keep joining us. We'll be back again later on this week with I'll be back again with Cheap Pop Podcast. And of course, we got Mr. Deacon Experience tomorrow and all the other wonderful shows here on 4 Aces. So keep listening. Peace.